The Tampa Bay Lightning started their road trip with their biggest win of the season and now are closer than ever to getting back to the postseason. But will it prompt a couple of player changes going down the road for the Bolts?
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. And we talked about on yesterday's episode just how big this game would be for the Tampa Bay Lightning, a tone setter for the rest of the road trip, a game that if things had gone right, they could have clinched the postseason. But one of the things that had to go right was the Canadiens taking down the Florida Panthers. And that, just as fortunately, did not happen. The Canadiens got an overtime win over the Panthers, and the Lightning still haven't clinched a playoff spot, but they did close the gap on the first place Toronto Maple Leafs. All three teams vying for the top spot in the Atlantic have played 74 games now. The Lightning second at 93 points, Maple Leafs first at 94, Panthers third at 92, and the Atlantic Division race just continues to get interesting. Oliver Bjorkstrand got the first goal for the Tampa Bay Lightning. About 2 minutes later, Bo Horvat got one, a shorthander for the Islanders. It's been rare this season the Lightning have let up a shorthanded goal, but about halfway through the second period, the Lightning got themselves back on top. 38 goals now for Jake Gensel, and then on Victor Hedman's essential clincher, Gensel got his second point of the game, an assist, which makes 300 for Gens in his career. Nikita Kucherov got the primary assist on both goals for the Lightning in the second period. He is now 1 point ahead of Nathan MacKinnon in the Art Ross race, and it's the first time in a while that Nikita Kucherov has overtaken Nathan MacKinnon in this race. It has really been his race to lose for most of the season. Now it seems the other way around, and it seems like Nikita Kucherov is in pole position for the Art Ross race, and in my opinion, the Hart Trophy race. At PK Subban was talking about that even after his Canadiens pulled off a comeback overtime win, one of the biggest wins they have had this season, still going on and on about how Nikita Kucherov is the man who should be running away with a Hart Trophy this season. I certainly agree with that. But Nikita Kucherov now in a 9-game point streak, 5 goals, 14 assists with 19 points over his last 9 games. He also has the third most 9-game point streak now among active players, behind only Sidney Crosby and Nathan MacKinnon. Kucherov with 13. And Crosby and McDavid have 17. Kuch also has a multi-assist streak, a multi-point streak of 4 games. And if he gets to 5, it'll be the longest run of his career. That happened last year. If he gets to 6, it'll tie Steven Stamkos for the Lightning's franchise record. And we've talked about how the Lightning are heating up at just the right time this season. How about Nikita Kucherov heating up at just the right time this season? I mean, he knows what's at stake. I mean, Kucherov is a gamer. He's a guy who just wins. He's a serial winner, and he is incredibly talented in the way he does it. And Nikita Kucherov, I think since the Four Nations break, I think Nikita Kucherov has been the best player in the NHL, and it's been one of the biggest reasons that the Tampa Bay Lightning have made the run that they're on. One of the reasons the Lightning are within striking distance of first place is Nikita Kucherov, and I certainly agree with PK Subban. Liked him as a player. Certainly like his takes on Nikita Kucherov being unquestionably the most valuable player in the NHL. I think that there's a very real chance that he could win his second straight Art Ross trophy, but he could also get the Hart trophy. And honestly, he was my pick for Hart at the beginning of the season because with Stamkos gone, I think it was very evident from the get-go that Nikita Kucherov was going to have to really, I mean, I don't want to say show he's a superstar because he's been doing that. I don't want to say step his game up because he just had 144 points last year. But Kucherov was going to have to be one of the best players in the league for the Tampa Bay Lightning to make the playoffs. I think I said something like that at the beginning of the season. It certainly is still something I stand behind, and I don't think there has been a better forward in the NHL this year than Nikita Kucherov. I mean, he hasn't single-handedly carried the Lightning. I certainly want to make that clear. The Lightning have had one of the most balanced offenses in the season with so many different guys angling for career highs. Nick Paul getting his first goal as a father and 40th point of the season made him the 8th Lightning player on the year with 40 points or more and puts him within a couple of goals of his career high with 8 games left in the NHL season. So the Lightning have had depth on offense. Their defense has done an excellent job of contributing to the offensive attack. Victor Hedman got his 60th point of the season. And, him being the captain or not, he has been an incredible leader for the Lightning defense that has been excellent on offense as well over the course of the year. And Hedman topping 60 points now each of the last 2 seasons after he had 76 in 23-24. And Hedman just continues to be a great leader and a great captain for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Another leader and the Lightning's alternate captain, Ryan McDonagh, blocked 2 shots against the New York Islanders and now is the 8th player in NHL history with 2,000 blocked shots. And if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Ryan McDonagh is going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's been one of the best defenders in the NHL over the past, decade plus that he has been there. He has been on winning teams and played a leadership role on those winning teams, captained the Rangers to a Stanley Cup final and some very successful years in the mid-2000s. Now as an alternate captain with the Lightning, he has helped win 2 Stanley Cups, and he is helping the Lightning on a big run right now. And the Tampa Bay Lightning just look like a team that is heating up at the right time. And if I am literally any other team in the NHL right now, I would be very afraid of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think it certainly makes some of these games down the road, particularly that April 9th tilt against the Maple Leafs 1 week from today. That is going to be the biggest game of the season. And I mean, less so now, but it could help the Lightning vault into first place. It could be a decider of the division, more or less, if it doesn't come down to the final home game of the season for the Lightning on April 15th against Florida. But that game against the Leafs is looking bigger and bigger, and that game against the Panthers is looking bigger and bigger these next 2 weeks. Obviously make or break for any team in the last couple months of the season. But especially if the Lightning can take down the Panthers and the Maple Leafs, they have to be firmly in the Stanley Cup contender conversation. They're not a dark horse anymore. The Lightning have not only established themselves throughout the season as one of the best teams in the entire NHL, but they are peaking at the right time. They are playing their best hockey of the season at the absolute right time. And there have been few teams in the NHL that have matched the Lightning in terms of wins since the Four Nations break. And there are a few teams that are matching the level of play that the Lightning are at right now. This is a team that is slowly moving away from dark horse and moving into certified contender status as we approach the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Tampa Bay Lightning certainly going to be a team to watch. And there's a couple players that I've been keeping my eye on over the course of the season. One of them, who has been somewhat of a forgotten name, has been Connor Geekie, who hasn't played for the Tampa Bay Lightning since they lost to the New York Islanders on February 1st. Do you think the Lightning should or even will bring Geekie back to the NHL at any point this season? Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. So Connor Geekie, that's a name we haven't heard in quite a while. Connor Geekie was a highlight rookie for the Tampa Bay Lightning, coming over in the Mikhail Sergachev trade along with J.J. Moser. Geekie played 49 games with the Lightning in the NHL, starting on their roster to begin the season, and played solidly. 6 goals, 6 assists in 49 games, a marker on the power play, as well as an assist. 2 game-winning goals for Tampa Bay. He won 42% of his faceoffs, switching in just about every position on offense for Tampa Bay, left wing, right wing, and center. And Geekie has been down in Syracuse since the beginning of February. 7 goals and 8 assists in 20 games for the Syracuse Crunch. Now, I, at the beginning of the season, was a proponent of starting Geekie down in the AHL. It has worked out that the Lightning used him at the beginning of the year, and they needed to send him down to the AHL to make room for Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde. And it just didn't seem to make sense to keep making him a healthy scratch. They'd rather use a guy like Cam Atkinson, who was a healthy scratch in last night's game against the Islanders. And a last-minute addition was Darren Radish into the game. So not having Connor Geekie there as a young player who the Lightning just want to get in games, because Geekie is at the point of his career where just getting him out on the ice, getting him reps in pro hockey is important for a young player like him. And he's gotten a taste of the NHL, and he did pretty well. Added a nice element of physicality to the Lightning's game on offense and defense, played on multiple different levels, and worked well with a lot of different Lightning players. But I do think it was the right move to send him down to the AHL, and it's looked pretty solid. Geekie has been one of the better players on Syracuse since getting recalled to the Crunch. And Geekie has certainly looked like a guy with tons of potential and a guy who has a certain future in the NHL. And this seems like an interesting question to pose approaching playoff time, but Geekie's situation in some ways reminds me of a story in baseball, and involves, even if you're not a big baseball fan, Probably know who Derek Jeter is. He was a highly touted Yankees rookie back in 1995 when he made his debut. And the Yankees ended up calling him up for the postseason, knowing that he was going to spend most of the playoffs sitting on the bench. And he was a great teammate. He was in the dugout. He was learning from coaches, hyping up his team in a playoff series that the Yankees eventually lost. In 1996, of course, Jeter made his first opening day roster, helped leading the Yankees to the World Series that year, and 3 of the next 4 years after that. 98, 99, 2000, 4 World Series titles in 5 years. And a lot of pundits, a lot of top Yankees brass gives credit to the decision to hold Jeter on the roster for the postseason and just keep him on the bench, have him learn from the guys, watch from afar so he could get off and running in 1996. And that's exactly what happened. Now, baseball and hockey are a little bit different in one way, and that's that the AHL season technically ends after the NHL regular season, at least for the Lightning affiliate, the Syracuse Crunch. Last game of Tampa's season will be in New York on April 17th. Last game of Syracuse's season will be at home against Utica on April 19th. So in baseball, the minor leagues end before the major league season, making that move for the Yankees a lot easier. If the Lightning want to bring Connor Geekie back for the postseason, they might have to take him out of a couple AHL games. And right now, I don't think bringing back Geekie is prudent. I think that he does provide more on the offensive side than Cam Atkinson does, and definitely is a more physical player. And he might be the best forward option the Lightning currently have in their system, since they still have yet to sign Isaac Howard. That is going to be even more complicated since Howard wants to play with the Lightning right now. And frankly, the Lightning don't have room on their roster or in the salary cap for a rookie just yet. So as much as I think that bringing Geekie back would help, I think that having him on board, even just as, an extra forward, I think having him on board with the Lightning for this postseason run could teach him a lot and help give him some needed experience for Geekie to become, the next star that the Lightning hope he can be. And I think Isaac Howard right now is the priority in terms of young players, which makes sense. He's been maybe the best player in college hockey this season. But I think that Geekie certainly deserves some attention for, a late flyer later in the year. I think this might be a better conversation for me to start with you guys once the Lightning officially clinch a playoff spot, which is still going to be possible on some level the next time the Lightning take the ice against the Ottawa Senators tomorrow. Now, I don't think Geekie's going to be called up anytime soon, but I certainly think that having him up with the Lightning for the postseason run could be a benefit. Will he be getting more minutes with the Syracuse Crunch? Absolutely. Geekie has been one of the top scorers on Syracuse since joining. But he can still get some valuable minutes, even if it's on the third or fourth line with the Lightning forwards right now in the NHL. And I think it's great to give him a full complement, put Geekie on the first line in Syracuse and let him run. I think that's great. I think it certainly helps him. But if you take a look at the AHL standings, it doesn't seem like Syracuse is going to be challenging for a playoff spot. Syracuse currently in 5th place in the North Division with 4 Atlantic Division teams already making the playoffs. And the Syracuse Crunch, kind of on the outside looking in of that race, with the Crunch currently sitting 1 point out of fourth place in the North Division. Only the Laval Rocket have clinched a playoff spot there. So it's still a possibility for the Crunch. And maybe they'll have Geeky helping challenge for the postseason. But there are other guys in Syracuse that I think can provide that boost. And I still think Geeky can help out the Lightning, even if he's just adding a bit more of an offensive element to that fourth line while staying one of the Lightning's most physical forwards. But I still think just having a young player around the team in a playoff run like this, in a really tight division race like this, can benefit him. Just being around an NHL team in this kind of scenario, having a bunch of veterans on the Lightning that can help, really teach Geeky how to comport himself in these big high leverage situations that the Lightning are in right now. Could he help the Syracuse Crunch currently in their playoff run more? Yes, absolutely. But I think it could help Geeky as a player if the Lightning bring him up for a minor role when it comes to their current playoff race. So that is something that we'll keep an eye on between Tampa and Syracuse. And there's one position battle that has somewhat emerged for the Tampa Bay Lightning over the course of the season, and that has been on defense between J.J. Moser and Darren Radish. Even if Darren Radish was the existing Lightning player, the cheaper option, and J.J. Moser was brought in along with his $3+ million a year contract in the Mikhail Sergachev trade, I think it might be time to put Radish ahead of Moser on the Lightning's depth chart. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. There you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one convenient place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. And now I budget smarter, save more, and cook more. Instead of judging multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with a code below, LOCKEDONNHL, for half off your first year. One last positional battle to talk about, which frankly didn't seem like much of one at the beginning of the season. One thing that I remember thinking about the Lightning roster at the beginning of the year is, okay, the defense is set. It seemed very straightforward to put the guy that the Lightning just traded one of the franchise greats for, in Mikhail Sergachev. Getting J.J. Moser in seemed an easy slot for him, replacing Sergachev on line one along with Victor Hedman. McDonough and Chernak were like a hold down line two. And line three was going to be Perbix and Lilleberg or Radish, not the two combined into one last name as I just tried to do. J.J. Moser unfortunately had to miss a whole lot of time in the middle of the season, getting hurt in December and missing a little over 2 months until after the Four Nations break. And he's been solid since he came back, but Darren Radish was the guy to replace him primarily on that first line for Tampa Bay. And Radish has had a great season already with a career high in points at 35, first 30 assist season for Radish, and he's one shy of his top goal-scoring season, which was 6 last year. He has 5 now, and he has played 65 games in 2024 and 25 after playing all 82 last season, still setting a career high in power play markers, plus minus, and points, as well as assists, all with fewer penalty minutes than he has last season. And just to show you how Radish has been so impressive this season, his plus minus is plus 10. In the rest of his career, he is plus 4. So Radish's plus minus better than it's been in his previous 3 NHL seasons combined, showing just how much better he has gotten this season, how much more efficient as a player that Radish has gotten. He is also second on the Lightning team among defenders in points and 9th overall in points for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, before I pose this idea, I'm going to qualify it with the fact that the injury definitely helped J.J. Moser, and I don't think that my hypothetical is going to be a decision that the Lightning solidify anytime soon, especially when you look at the contracts for Tampa Bay, which we'll get to in a minute. But has Radish been that much better than Moser this year to warrant him replacing JJ as the Lightning's number one right side defenseman? So again, the injuries definitely affected JJ Moser. If you look at his numbers before and after the injury, since the injury, Moser's been fine on defense, but offensively, he's only recorded 3 points in the month plus worth of games that he has played since his injury on December 12th of 2024. Offensively, at the start of the year, it looked like Moser was a great two-way defenseman. But his offensive numbers have declined, with the exception really of the last 3 games. He had assists in the 2 home matches against Utah and Pittsburgh. And now in the last 2 games against the Islanders has not recorded a point, but did get a plus minus of plus 3 against the New York Islanders. And I think the Lightning have been a little bit more careful with JJ since the injury. Obviously, the 24-year-old, they want to be a big part of their future. And he's a versatile defenseman he was typically a left defenseman, but moved to the right side to pair with Victor Hedman after he was traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And right now, Radish is the cheaper option. Moser's contract goes on a little bit longer than Darren Radish is, who will be a free agent after the 25-26 season. Meanwhile, J.J. Moser will be a restricted free agent in 26-27. I would be surprised if the Lightning don't pick that contract up. By that point, Ryan McDonough will be out of contract as well. And who knows if he'll want to play another year. I mean, I certainly think he has it in him. But, McDonough's still 35, so he might not be back in 26-27. Nick Perbix's contract ends after this year, and that is a player who, unfortunately, might fall out just because of that contract, with the Lightning needing to, keep everyone, just to make some tough decisions about who to keep and who not to keep, with some big rookies coming in and some solid young defensemen coming in as well. But Nick Perbix, it could very well turn into Radish switching to the left side and replacing Perbix, while with Emil Lilleberg on the right side, or even Lilleberg going to the left side as he's a left-handed shot and Radish going to the right side. I mean, there are certainly options, but the Lightning are going to have to make some tough decisions when it comes to defensemen. I don't think J.J. Moser is a guy who's going to be out of the rotation. I think next year is going to be a make-or-break year for both Moser and Darren Radish, as they will be in preseason camp and really throughout the regular season, probably fighting for that right side spot on Victor Hedman's top defensive line. And Hedman is locked up until 2029, likely the last contract that he's going to have in the NHL. And Darren Radish is 29 years old, on the older side. Moser's 24. So obviously, age-wise, I think JJ is going to be someone that's looked a little bit more favorably upon. But you can't discount how good Radish has been. He really did a good job helping hold down the Lightning defense with Moser absent. But on the defensive side, I certainly wouldn't change a single thing for Tampa Bay right now. But going forward, I think Darren Radish might be in larger consideration for the top right defender spot on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I certainly hope he is someone who the Lightning makes part of their plans for the near future. And tomorrow's near future, we've got a big divisional matchup to preview. So make sure to check out that episode when it drops at 10 a.m. tomorrow. But I want to thank you for tuning in to today's show and making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. For your second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And please give us a like, a follow, a subscribe. We do the show for you guys and always appreciate your support. So thank you again for tuning in to Locked On Lightning. I'm Josh Sperber saying go Bolts and wishing you a great Wednesday.